Or have you always known? And you just hidden it away? You know the truth. Say it. Say it.
They were nobody.
They were filthy junk traders who sold you off for drinking money. The dead in a pauper's grave in the Jakku Desert. You have no place in this story. You come from nothing. You're nothing. But not to me. Join me.
Gathering masses because it's critical mass, a show that brings critics together to battle and maybe even get rattled. 3 words that create visceral hate or endearment and adulation. Those 3 words, The Last Jedi. A movie that crossed the $1 billion mark in the box office, but also sparked a division in Star Wars fandom never before seen in the galaxy. We're here to debate the rights and the wrongs of The Last Jedi that has left such a lasting disturbance in the Force. I'm your host, Emeka. On today's episode of Critical Mass, we have Veronica Myers from the Washington Tribune and Matthew Vaughn from Esquire. 2 renowned critics, 2 opposing views. Let's go. Hey guys.
Hey.
How are you?
Not too bad. How are you?
I am great. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You guys ready to do this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, don't hold back your punches though.
Okay.
I'm going to start with you first, Matthew.
All right.
Now, Mr. Vaughn, in your review of The Last Jedi, published in Esquire, you described The Last Jedi as a movie with more substance than any previous installments in the saga. Here's a quote from your review. Some of the Star Wars sequels have been great fun, others have been dire. But really, I've never thought of them as anything more than pop culture candy. Star Wars, The Last Jedi, is the first one that tastes like steak. Wow. But I think we can all agree that the Star Wars movies actually, definitely, certainly fall in the pop culture category. But would it be fair to say that The Last Jedi is more steak and Empire Strikes Back just candy?
Yeah. I'll tell you why.
Please.
So I don't think it's a bad thing. I said in my article that Star Wars holds a very special place in my heart, and many people across many generations as well. There's so many memories I have that have come from the original 6 Star Wars films. But it exists in this black and white, this plain binary world, right? Where there's good and evil, win and lose, and that's fun. But I can only watch so much of that, and then you kind of get a little bored, I think. And what I think Rian Johnson does with The Last Jedi, he allows the movie, the character, the scenes, the context to live in between. Characters that are dealing with both sides in between actual situations that are in the gray area of the good and evil. And that's why I think it's such a success and why people are talking about it today, is that that's what people want to see. People want to see things that aren't just good and bad. You know, we're not in the 70s anymore.
Okay, Veronica, is Empire Strikes Back candy and The Last Jedi steak?
Oh, I don't even know where to begin in addressing the utterly putrid remarks that Mr. Vaughn has made in comparing The Last Jedi to Empire Strikes Back. I mean, okay, this whole steak and candy analogy thing is frankly offensive. The notion that the original trilogy is black and white and binary and not nuanced in their depiction of the battle between good and evil is ludicrous. The entire original trilogy is an exemplary allegory of this battle, in which even our protagonist, Luke Skywalker, succumbs to the dark side for an instant in Return of the Jedi after unleashing his rage on his own father, only to realize that that very rage, that thirst for revenge, is the path to evil.
Well, so you don't think the movie's inspiring?
Okay. We want to talk about inspiration. Let me tell you one of my favorite stories.
Sure.
So, once upon a time, there was a truck driver who was so inspired by the original Star Wars that he quit his job and started making movies. You know who that trucker was?
Who was that?
James Cameron. One of the only filmmakers of all time to have 2 of his movies become 2 of the highest grossing films of all time. What you think of as stale was pretty inspiring to him and a whole generation.
He's like 80. So what do you want?
Things are timeless for a reason. Why do you think Star Wars movies keep getting made?
Hold on. So in your review, which was published in the Washington Tribune, quite a good read, by the way.
Thank you.
Now, you praised The Last Jedi as being a great-looking movie, but also a missed opportunity. Do you mind elaborating on what opportunity the movie missed?
Absolutely. Well, I would say it missed pretty much every opportunity it was given in all of the
That's just not
things that
true.
were set up in Force Awakens.
I'll give you a second.
I mean, okay, it's a nice looking movie, but the irony is now we have these new movies with these beautiful special effects, but the story lacks any coherent structure. So first of all, Last Jedi, you've got 3 different storylines going on throughout, and so then they're all left feeling like little side quests that don't really matter. Then you've got wasted characters. Characters like Finn and Rose, which had the potential to be amazing, well-developed characters that added something new to the story. But instead, he skims over their part of the story, and they're just sort of along for the ride, which gives this sort of awkward possibility that maybe they're just there for ethnic diversity.
What?
I'm sorry, somebody has to say it.
No one has to say
Yes,
that.
they do. And okay, then you want to look into the things that are added for some strange reason, I guess just for shock value. You have these strange things like Leia propelling herself through space, or Luke suckling milk from an alien teat like a deranged lunatic, when more time and effort could have been not spent on things like that and instead spent investing in a compelling hero's journey for Rey. I mean, Rian Johnson consistently, completely disregards every interesting plot point set up in Force Awakens.
So I'm looking at Matthew
Wow.
now, and I know you want to respond. Would you agree with this theory that it was a missed opportunity? And what's your take on the identity politics Veronica was just talking
Okay,
about?
almost every single point that Veronica just brought up is wrong. Just plain wrong. And I'll tell you the reason why.
Please.
It's because she comes from a very specific perspective on Star Wars. Like many fandoms, there's fans that really love what it was. Okay, and that's the key word, was. That's what makes it toxic. There's so many fans that think they are owed Star Wars, that it has to be for them and no one else, and it has to stay in this little box, in this thing that George Lucas created and nothing else. But guess what? He's not making the movies anymore. It's a guy named Rian Johnson, it's a guy named J.J. Abrams. George Lucas has no hand in it. So I think you should allow the movies to exist in the world that they are in.
But they
And
need
let's
to
talk-
respect the world that exists when you're dealing with that kind of lore that has already been established.
I think there's respect. You just can't see beyond your blinders. And let me talk about the blinders in terms of what you think about identity politics as well. It has nothing to do with that term that is thrown around willy-nilly. It's just the nature of the world we live in. We look at North America now, it is so much more diverse just by the nature of the people that live in this place from 50 years
Well,
ago.
yes, and that's fine. And I'm not saying don't have diversity in your films. What I'm saying is you have to give the characters some respect. Give them a noble purpose within that world. Give them something to do.
A noble purpose doesn't have to be this huge goal to save the world. That's what you think Star Wars is these giant things. But guess what? There's
Star
so
Wars
many.
does address
Let him
huge things.
finish.
That's the whole
But there's so many characters in Star Wars that don't do the big things, and that's okay. That's okay.
So you know what? This is actually a good segue for me to pause here for a second because I want to get both your perspectives. Top 5 Star Wars movies of all time. I'm going to start with you first, Veronica. Go.
Okay, I'm very glad you asked. So, first off, number 1 has to be Empire Strikes Back because it's the character development and that incredible twist that has become, so universally well known. I mean, everyone in the Western world, even if you don't know anything else about Star Wars, everybody knows Luke, I am your father. Like, what an incredible switch that shocked the world when that came out, right? Number 2, I would have to say A New Hope because the incredible world building changed cinema forever. Just, so much love. Number 3, Rogue One. Number 4, Return of the Jedi. And number 5, Phantom Menace because, I know, only because, arguably the best Jedi Sith battle sequence ever brought to screen. And the reason that I'm so happy that you asked is because Rogue One is my 3rd favorite Star Wars movie of all time. That movie's got a female lead and a hugely diverse cast, but the difference is every character in that movie crushed so hard because they were dealing with an amazing script with a clear story that was obviously crafted by people who love and truly understand Star Wars. I mean, the identity politics that you're talking about are just poisoning what Star Wars is.
No, it's
it
not.
means so much to so many people. People find hope and inspiration in
And it
Star
can help
Wars.
a lot more people if we open the stories up.
Okay. Let's get your take, Matthew.
Yeah.
Top 5.
Okay.
Go.
Okay, honestly, not a bad list. Other than Phantom Menace, that I don't
Okay, I'll take that.
But okay, I'll put number 5. I'll put Rogue One, honestly, number 5. You know, honestly, I'm really excited to see these solo movies where they're not just trilogies, and I think Rogue One does a great job with that, where it's like you can watch a Star Wars in an hour and a half, and that's it. You don't have to, you know, watch the rest of the trilogy, and I do like that. It's more bite-sized, I guess. Number 4, I'm gonna have to put Empire Strikes Back. Okay, thanks. Okay, I think Empire Strikes Back. I mean, talk about amazing character development. Like, it still holds up to this day, that kind of progression for Luke and becoming the Jedi that he was and why he became so iconic. I think number 3, I'm gonna have to put Force Awakens. You know, I do think that's not the best movie ever made, obviously, but I really do think J.J. Abrams, like, he really did introduce Star Wars back into the zeitgeist. You know, we're in a new generation where people are on their phones all the time, and you know, there's like Instagram and YouTube and content is like this, and he still was able to hold their attention. So I think that was pretty amazing. Number 2, New Hope. You know, George Lucas had this crazy idea to make a space western, and now millions upon millions of people from 80 to 8 love it. So New Hope, that's number 2 for me, of course. But number 1, because of what I believe in, you have to be paving the way towards the future. Number 1 is Last Jedi by Rian Johnson. Where else are we supposed to go with that? It's the only film that I truly believe was pushing Star Wars in a direction that we have not already seen. That's what I want from Star Wars, is because it's such a beloved franchise, a known franchise, that I want to be on my seat, excited to see what's going to happen next. And that's what he's doing. He's paving the way for the new. You know, like Kylo Ren says, let the past die. Kill it if you have to.
But he was wrong!
No, he
That's the
wasn't.
villain you're talking about. And okay, so you want to talk about the new? Look at, say, The Mandalorian. That is a groundbreaking show that introduces new elements to the story while staying true to the world, and that's the difference.
No, it's not. That's not. Okay, look, Mandalorian's a good show, but it's just feeding this nostalgia. It's not a new story. You have Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano and all the characters that existed before. I want new characters, and I'm not saying it's a bad story, because I love me some Baby Yoda. Like, it's a fun character, but it exists in the nostalgia, and it's not pushing anything forward.
Okay, so Veronica, good point, good response, Matthew. But Veronica, in your review in the Washington Tribune, you said that The Last Jedi was a shameful betrayal of the Skywalker saga. Do you still feel that way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The Luke that Johnson gives us in The Last Jedi is completely incompatible with everything we know about the character. The Luke that we know is a passionate, heart of gold hero whose whole identity is based around this idea that anyone is redeemable. Even his warlord father, who struck down Obi-Wan before his eyes, cut off Luke's own hand, and was responsible for the death and destruction of literal entire planets. How could the guy who forgave Vader try to kill Ben? I mean, how could the failure of one Padawan convince him that the entire Jedi Order deserves to die? And even if he had fallen so far, wouldn't the fact that someone traversed the galaxy to find him in Han's ship give him some more hope? I mean, this sardonic, cynical, gross new version of Luke might have been a fun, dark twist for Rian Johnson, but it was a selfish, disrespectful fuel for his own ego and a defamation of a character that people have been waiting generations to see again.
Okay, so Matthew, I know you want to respond to that, but I do want to press you just a little bit more. Can you share more of your reasoning behind ranking The Last Jedi as the best Star Wars?
And one of the reasons is Luke, and that's why I read my article. Is this is probably one of our biggest points between each other? Is I think what they did to Luke is one of the best things that's happened in the franchise, and I'll tell you why. Okay, so let's just look at the end of Force Awakens. Okay, so we get to the last scene. Rey gets to this planet, and she is handing off this lightsaber to Luke. That's all we see. That's all we know, and we have to go for 2 more years before actually seeing what that's going to be. And you're excited, like you feel, oh, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be, you know, lightsaber training, all that stuff. So you're excited, but you're expecting the expected. So it's, you know what's going to come. But what Rian Johnson does is when you get to that scene, she hands him the lightsaber and he throws it into the water. Now tell me that doesn't subvert everything that you've ever expected from Star Wars. And then I remember being in that theater, and I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. Because I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen now? What's happening with Luke? And then we go on this whole journey of understanding why Luke is the way he is. And he talks about this heart of gold and redeeming the unredeemable. And sure, I guess in that first 20 minutes he seems that way, but we're letting the grief fill. We're letting a human emotion do its thing, and that's what I want to see on screen.
Sure, absolutely, but he wouldn't just abandon all his friends and family. That was what meant the world to him. He never had that, and when he finally got it, he protected it with everything that he was. How could he just run off to literally die alone?
But we don't know that. We watched this man is aged 20 to 30 years, and let's talk about the rest of the movie, right? Where you think I think you get it really wrong. Okay, so we get to a point, right? We're hearing all these back and forth stories between Kylo Ren and Luke Skywalker about what happened at the Jedi Temple. And so, of course, we from Kylo Ren that Luke went in this rage and tried to kill him. But we found out the truth. And the truth is, when Luke Skywalker looked at Ben Solo as he was sleeping, his nephew, he couldn't do it. And I remember, and I watched that, like, wow, we see him at his lowest, and this is where he rises up.
That's an Anakin move, not a Luke move.
But you can be like your father, you know, that's familial ties. And we look at the rest of the time, right? Then we go and we see his redemption arc, right? He tries to get rid of all the Jedi stuff. It doesn't work out because Yoda's there. And then he has this epic lightsaber duel with Kylo Ren to save everyone else.
Now that's one of my biggest problems with it too, is because Force projection. The Force suddenly does all these things that the Force was never able to do
But isn't that
before.
exciting?
It is exciting, but it goes against everything. The Force is supposed to be something natural
What
that
do
you
you
can
know
learn
about
to
the
manipulate.
Force?
If
You're not George
make it,
Lucas.
if you
And
make it
with
magic,
that-
where are the stakes?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid we've reached critical mass and we're out of time, unfortunately. Let's thank Baby Yoda, aka Grogu, for bringing some balance to the Force in this heated episode. And a big thank you to our guest, Veronica Myers from the Washington Tribune, and Matthew Vaughn from Esquire.